Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Prime Minister Holness announces plans to continue development under the Roof and Towers project. Prime Minister Holness says the government will be moving ahead with further developments under the Roof and Towers project. This is despite the significant criticism that the project received due its focus on higher income brackets.
Sometimes the politics is so unreasonable, and without research, people just make wild comments that change the public mood and becomes a distraction for the project Jamaica that we have to keep our eyes on. So we made the decision, after careful consideration, that we will go ahead with the additional phases, and subject to layout modifications within the allowance for habitable rooms, in phase 2, we will be able to put on the market approximately 234 more units. We did not want a housing development, which is well within the mandate, to detract public support for the general direction in which we are going. So we considered very carefully as to whether or not we should continue with a project such as this. And we debated it for a while. I had even announced that we would not continue with the other phases. But after careful consideration, we have to be reasonable. And a part of my job as Prime Minister and as a politician, yes, you always want to be considered favorably in everybody's eyes. You want to be everybody's friend. But at the end of the day, you have a country to run, and people want their houses. And popularity can carry you so far and no more. We have to do what is right. Which then the NHT would not have to tie up resources in being project managers and doing the proprietary work. It could be a straight engagement with private sector, and private sector then would take the risk and make the profit or the loss, because there is risk, and would bring the projects to market. Because at the end of the day, the objective is to get the 234 units out to market so that those who want them can get them. So that's the possible route which we will pursue with the other phases.
Duncan Sutherland makes appeal in Donnelly case. People's National Party Women's Movement President Patricia Duncan Sutherland calling on the police and prosecutors to bring their strongest game in the wake of the murder charges being laid against Constable Noel Maitland in the disappearance of his 23-year-old girlfriend Donnelly Donaldson. At the same time, Duncan Sutherland is urging that anyone else involved in the saga be brought to book swiftly, stating that she hopes there will not be other cops, as the constabulary image has already been beaten in this case. It seems the police are making good progress that they have been able to charge. We hope that as they are putting together their case file, that the Director of Public Prosecutions will be able to do justice to the case, and that justice will be served quickly as well, because justice delayed is justice denied, Duncan Sutherland told reporters on Tuesday. Duncan Sutherland said, while other cases were of similar import, this was an example because it involves a member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. We need to be able to trust our police if we are going to curb this monster called crime. With respect to the others involved, I hope that they are able to make headway as well, and I hope it is not additional members of the constabulary, because that would not work well for us, but if it is, they will be brought to justice. It doesn't make it any easier for the family, but at least it gives relief that she will not be just as a statistics, Duncan Sutherland stated. She was speaking to reporters following an announcement by the police high command that Maitland was on Tuesday formally charged with murder in the case of social media influencer who was reported missing on July 13 after she did not return from visiting Maitland at his home on the night of July 11. Fitzbailey said that in a bid to unearth her remains, have gone on several search operations, including the Riverton City landfill in the corporate area, but have come up empty-handed. In the meantime, DCP Bailey said investigations were ongoing as the police believe Maitland got assistance after the fact. We believe that after Miss Donaldson was killed, he got assistance in the disposal of her body, the top cop said. Since Donaldson's disappearance was published, several public protests have been organized by her family and her followers, who demanded that someone be held accountable. Meanwhile, Duncan Sutherland used Donaldson's case to make an appeal for information in the case of accountant teacher Chantel Blake McCullough, whose skeletal remains were found in St. Catherine in May after she had vanished on January 6 this year. Blake McCullough, 26, was last seen in the company of her husband Shane, a businessman who the police say has since fled the island. Last weekend, the police confirmed that DNA results have shown that the remains were of the missing woman. Said Duncan Sutherland, her remains were found, and I don't know what headway they have been making with that investigation, but anybody who knows anything, I'm encouraging them to come forward and let the police know so it can help with their investigations. I am hoping that Chantal's case does not grow cold now that they have a body. I really want us to expand the general conversation because feminicides as a result of domestic disputes have been on the rise. Generally, we have a problem with domestic violence and relationships between men and women. I am continuing the call for an army of social workers to help us with our problem of choosing violence as our first response, she said. Added Duncan Sutherland, we let go some peace doves on Monday, August 1, Emancipation Day. It is symbolic, but we need to put action behind that. If we want to end violence, it will not happen by chance. Prime Minister Holness stated that our natural assets are essential to our survival and are under serious threat as we seek to exploit them to create economic wealth.
One of the things that have always occupied the minds of Jamaicans is the preservation and value of our natural assets. And our natural assets are under serious threat as we seek to exploit them to create economic wealth. And it is a perennial challenge, an eternal challenge between preserving our natural assets, such as was described as this pond system, which has not just the aesthetic value, but it serves a real value of protecting some economic assets which are just across the road. So, in a sense, there are some people who believe that exploiting our natural assets is, a form of wealth creation. But if it is done improperly, it is also a part of destroying our economic assets and wealth. So this pond system, as was described, is here for protection of people who live across the road, to protect their property. It prevents against flooding. It also provides for the birds and other species of animals that live here, for the flora and fauna that is here. It is clear that the government has to take action, legislative action, in increasing the fines. And it's not just in the area of the environment, it is right across the board. What we are facing is that the society is advancing very quickly. Private initiative is moving very quickly. There is a threat to our social order. And we need to ensure that the legislative framework matches the energy that exists for growth and development, and also for deviant behavior in the country. So there needs to be a revision of our legislative framework. And we have started, and we have undertaken a whole entire slew of legislative reform and review, which is why we have put in place a Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Reform to pay close attention.
As a government, we are taking strong and decisive action to address crime and violence from every legislative angle, stated Prime Minister Holness.
There are some actions which we have already started to take to treat with violence. Number one, we have laid in Parliament a new firearms bill, which has increased the penalty for the use, trading, and distribution and possession of firearms. Most of the murders in Jamaica take place with the use of firearm, with a gun. So we have to treat with that tool of violence, the gun. We are coming with a new Bail Act. Many of the perpetrators of violence come back out and are able, while they are being processed for a charge, they come back out and they commit crimes. And many of them end up murdering again. We have to treat with that. We are reviewing the Zones of Special Operations Act to improve it. It is working very well. It is bringing peace to many communities that were formerly conflict-torn. We are revising the Offences Against the Persons Act. Now, that is the bill, the act that will deal with when you get into a fight with somebody and you get beat up or you get abused. Those penalties and some new offenses would have to be created. We are revising the Sexual Offences Bill, Act rather, because we are seeing emerging new trends in sexual abuse, sexually motivated violence, including cyber issues that we have to treat with. And we are in the process of, and in fact, very advanced in reviewing the Domestic Violence Act, which will give greater protection to vulnerable people in our society. We are also reviewing the Child Care and Protection Act. And in that act, we will make an amendment to ban corporal punishment in Jamaica. When you put all of those together, what you will have is a stronger, more robust system of treating with violence in Jamaica.
Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.